Hello, Marisa. Welcome back.
Thanks, teacher. I was about to read the next slide.
Yes. Ignacio. Okay, I'm going to begin sharing the presentation with you. There it is. Okay. Okay. So we were here, right? If I'm not mistaken. So, Marisa, can you help us, please?
Yes. Practical steps to test construction. Assessing clear, unambiguous objectives. Drawing up test specifications. Devising test tasks. Designing multiple choice test items.
Thank you. So those were the steps designed by the author, Douglas H. Brown, related to test, construction, or design. Thank you, Marisa. Okay, and here we have a very clear example of clear and very unambiguous objectives. There's a part of the book that you read, or part of the chapter that you read. So those are objectives of um, a test, and the level is low intermediate. Okay, and here you can see the objectives that for each skill the teacher devised or designed. Very clear objectives for listening and speaking, for speaking alone, for reading, and also for writing. And these objectives, here she's going to take into consideration for the following, which is test specification, the overall design of the test. And here, the teacher who designed this test or this evaluation is going to refer, according to the skill or the ability, to the objectives or the objective that he or she is taking into consideration. For listening and speaking, for reading or writing. Okay. For instance, for speaking, for the speaking task, is taking into consideration objectives 3, 5, and emphasis on 6. 3, completed actions and events in a social conversation. Give opinions about an event in a social conversation, but overall, produce language with contextually appropriate intonation, stress, and rhythm. For the listening, she or he is taking into consideration objectives 1 and 2, which are recognize and produce tag questions with the correct grammatical form and final intonation pattern in simple social conversations, and also recognize and produce double H information questions with correct final intonation pattern, which is the objectives 1 and 2. And for reading, is taking into consideration objective 7, which is recognize irregular past tense of elected verbs in a story or essay, which has to do more with grammar. And for writing, the objective is objective 9. Use conjunctions so and because in a statement of opinion. So as you can see, this is a very thorough specification and writing of objectives for a certain evaluation. And now here we have, it has to do with devising or designing the test tags, which has to be also very, very clear and stated in writing. And this has to do with the oral interview format, which has to do with speaking, the warm-up, question and comments to get the student to gain confidence. B, the level check questions, which have to do with objectives 3, 5, and 6. And the probe, the exam, which has to do with objectives 5 and 6. And finally, the wrap up, the wind down, comments and reassurance of the input provided by the student or by the test taker. Okay, here, Renee, can you help us, please?
Yes. Multiple choice items are all receptive or selective response items in that the test taker chooses from a set of responses, commonly called a supply type of response, rather than creating a response. Other receptive items types include true-false questions and matching lists. In the discussion here, the guidelines apply primarily to multiple choice items types and not necessarily to other receptive types. Every multiple choice item has a STEM or STEM, I don't know, which presents a stimulus and several, usually between 3 and 5, options or alternatives to choose from. Number 3, one of those options, the key, is a correct response, while the others serve as distractors.
Thank you, Renee. Thank you. Yes, and nowadays, more commonly, in the more advanced tests or evaluations, we have in the multiple choice item, we have the STEM, which is the question, and usually 5 options or alternatives. 2 of those 4 options serve as distractors. 1 is the key or the correct answer, and the other option is very similar to the correct answer. So from the 4 options, 2 of them are obviously incorrect, but the other 2, one is the correct answer and the other, very much resembles the correct option. So that has to do with more modern or more advanced or higher level evaluations or examinations. Thank you, Renee. Okay, here we have another example. We have an example of multiple choice item. The question is, the STEM is, where did George go after the party last night? And the options are A, yes, he did. B, because he was tired to Elaine's place for another party. And D, around 11 o'clock. Which one do you think is the correct answer?
C.
Exactly, C. And here is revised because the person who designed this question is checking what? What grammatical item is the teacher checking with this question?
Past tense, so question words or what?
Exactly, exactly. Past tense and also WH questions formation. Very
Yeah.
good, very good. And of the four options, the only question that answers the stem is C. Now here we have multiple choice close item, flawed. Why flawed? Because, well, I'm going to read the stem. It says, my eyesight has really been deteriorating lately. I wonder if I need glasses. I think I better go to them to have my eyes checked. And the probable answers could be pediatrician, dermatologist, and optometrist. Here in this case, the flawed has to do with a word that is in the stem that
Yeah.
contributes to confuse the test taker. In this case, the word that contributes to create confusion in the test taker is deteriorating. So in this case, the correct answer is
Sí.
the optometrist. Okay.
See, yeah.
Now here, another flawed multiple choice item says the same one that we read previously. Where did George go after the party last night? And here it's called flawed because in the options there are two options that are clearly incorrect, which are A and B. They clearly do not answer the question, but we have two that could be the correct answer if one doesn't isn't paying attention. So for some students, option D could make sense, although the correct answer is C.
See.
Okay, now Miriam, can you help us, please?
Basic types of listening. Intensive listening for perception of components, phonemes, words, intonation of larger stretch of language. Responsive listening to a relatively short stretch of language, a greeting, question, command, comprehension check in order to make a short response.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we have some other types of listening. Can you help us, Ileana, please?
Yes. Basic types of listening. 3. Selective. Assessment task could last to listen for names, numbers, directions, or certain facts and events. 4. Extensive. Listening to develop a top-down global understanding of spoken language. Performance for range from lengthy lectures, conversations to a comprehensive message listening for.
Yes.
The main idea and for making inferences, micro skill of listening, attending to the smaller bits and chunks of language, and more of a bottom-up process, micro skills of listening, focus on the larger elements involved in a top-down approach to a listening task.
Thank you. Thank you, Liliana. Okay, so intensive. In this case, intensive resembles selective. Number 3, when we are listening for a very particular sound in intensive. Can you give me an example of this kind of intensive listening? Do you remember what minimal pairs are? Minimal pairs.
No.
Okay. Minimal pairs are, okay, I'm going to help you here. Do you know what homophones are?
The same
Homophones.
sound. Words which have the same sound.
Exactly. Words that have the same sound. But minimal pairs are words that have the same sound, words, except for a phoneme. The difference is only one sound that they have. That's the difference.
Okay.
So for intensive listening, you have to be listening to catch that minimal difference between the phonemes, the words, and also the intonation.
Teacher, right here we
For,
can check the stress of the words.
Exactly,
Okay.
because it has to do with intonation.
for example, teacher, comparing the words keys and keys.
Exactly. In those cases, keys, they are homophones. They sound exactly alike. But for instance, something
Eight,
that is sorry,
8. I am 8 years old and I ate
There
an
are a
apple.
lot. Night
yes,
and night.
exactly,
etc.
exactly. But what about 3 and 3?
3,
Oh
3.
yes, there are a
Those are,
different sound there.
yes, those are minimal pairs.
Live and live.
Oh, well, yes, but in that case, that is a different tense, different tense. Okay, and the second one is responsive. Um, well, in this is very common in the TOEFL test. In a part of the TOEFL test where you're listening to a very short stretch of language in order to make a short response or to choose a correct answer. In number three, which is also part of intensive listening, but in this case, you're not listening for a single phoneme. You're listening for names, numbers, directions, or certain dates, for instance. Now, in extensive, listening to develop a top-down global understanding of a spoken language. For instance, when you're watching a video, maybe a conversation, or you're trying to understand the main idea of a lecture. And here, micro skills of listening, attending to the smaller bits, to the smallest phonemes or smaller words of something that has been that you're listening, or chunks of language, phrases or complete sentences, which some scholars of the English language believe that is the way that we learn languages. We don't learn our mother tongue by just listening or by learning isolated words. We learn language or mother tongue or L1 by learning chunks of language, which is easier. It's ironic, but it's easier. For instance, a very clear example. We were taught when we were learning English, then when somebody asks us, "How are you?" we immediately, without thinking, we would say, "Fine, thank
Fine,
you."
thank you.
Yes, without thinking, we say, "Fine, thank you." There's a chunk of language that we learn to answer to the question, "How are you?" or "What's your name?" We will say, "My name is Christian. My name is Felipe. My name is Brian. My name is John." So that calls for chunks of language, several words that form a sentence or a phrase. Now, when we're talking about top-down approach, in a top-down approach, You as a listener or as a learner, you're using your previous knowledge to understand what you're listening, sorry, or what you're reading. Instead, in bottom-up process, you're building the knowledge from a new input, from new information. That is the difference. In top-down, you're using what you have to understand, and with bottom-up process, you are building new knowledge from new information that you are processing. Okay. So we have here a very clear example of intensive listening, phonemic pair consonants. Uh, for instance, when you hear he is from California and you have to choose which is the correct answer, he's from California or she's from California. Well, obviously, when you read it, it's very easy, right? And when you're listening in a normal speech, well, you can have some problems, especially if you're a beginner. Intensive listening. Is he leaving? So this is more difficult because maybe you will need some content to answer this question. Is he leaving? But you have to take into consideration that in leaving, in option B, the E is shorter. Instead, in option E, is he leaving? Uh, the E sound is longer. So that's the deal with intensive listening. Sentence paraphrase. Who's next? Aaron, can you help me with this one, please? Can you help us?
From top,
Yes, please.
and this is paraphrase. Here, hello, my name is Ken. I come from Japan. Really, Ken is comfortable in Japan. Ken wants to come to Japan. Ken is Japanese. Ken likes Japan.
Thank you, Aaron. So remember, we're listening. So maybe you hear, "Hello, my name is Ken. I come from Japan." Obviously, two of the options are incorrect. Which ones are the ones that are obviously incorrect? Which options?
A.
D.
D and also
See,
D.
C and D. And the ones that we could be having problems. Remember, we're listening. We're not reading. Is A and B, right? But in this case, this has to do with when we are listening. Okay? Says, "Hello, my name is Ken. I come from Japan." But in this case, the correct answer is
C.
C. But we could be having a lot of problems, especially a beginner, with A and with B. I don't know if this is clear for you. Remember, we are listening. We're not reading. The first part, we're given an input, but by listening, not by reading it. And we have to choose the correct answer from A, B, C, and D. Efrain, can you help us, please?
Hi, Maria. My name is George. Woman, nice to meet you, George. Uh, George, are you American? Man, no, I'm a Canadian. George, all right.
Yes.
Yeah, hey, George lives in the USA. US, B, George is American, C, George comes from Canada.
Thank you. Thank you. Remember, we're listening here, no? As Efrain said, we are listening. The input says, "Hi, Maria. My name's George. Nice to meet you, George. Are you American? No, I'm Canadian." And we have to choose the answer that resembles what he's saying, what George is saying. So, which could be the correct answer?
Also, see, George comes
B.
from Canada.
Exactly. But imagine that you're a beginner learner. You're a beginner learner, but you keep.
Maybe I
Yeah.
were confused with the
If you're
letter B.
begin,
Yes,
yeah,
you could be.
get confused with letter B.
Yes, you could be easily confused with letter B because is the word American in letter B. Okay. Adilena, can you help us, please? Is Adilena here?
Sorry, I was reading with my microphone off.
No. Don't worry.
Okay. It's responsive listening. Response to the questions. Here, how much time do you take to do your homework? With A, in about an hour. B, about an hour. C, about 10. And D, yes, I did.
Thank you. Thank you. So remember, here we're listening the input. How much time did you take to do your homework? For you, what is the correct answer?
B, I think.
B.
About an
B.
hour.
About an hour.
B.
Exactly, about an hour. And which is obviously the incorrect answer. Obviously.
About
About 10.
About 10.
Yes,
yes, I
I
did.
did.
Yes, I did.
Yes, I
Because
did.
why?
Because they are
Because
not
it's an open
questioning
question.
if you did it or not.
Yes, exactly. And at the
When you're
beginning,
using a double question,
What?
Double A questions.
using a double question, it's an open question.
yes, but remember, for a beginner listener, the question begins with how much. And maybe for a beginner, he may think, but how the question begins, that is talking about amounts of money. And maybe because of that, he will choose or she will choose option C. But the correct one is B. Josue, can you help us, please?
Okay. Responsive listening. Open-end response to a question. Here, how much time do you take to do your homework? Right. Speak. Good authenticity and creativity. Bad practicality.
Thank you, Josue. Yes, in this case, it's an open-ended question. And well, the student is going to answer either by writing or by speaking with his or her own information. This is great for authenticity and creativity, but is very time consuming and it could have problems with reliability at the time of evaluating this question. Thank you. Azareli, can you help us?
Yes, of course. Selective listening. Listening close. In a listening close task, test takers see a transcript of the passage that they are listening to and fill in the blanks with the words or phrases that they hear.
Okay, thank you, Azareli. Yes, the closed task. Are you familiar with this type of evaluation?
Yes.
Jose, have you used it?
Sometimes, yes. But last week, we were talking about this. close,
Exactly.
filling gaps.
Exactly. Filling gaps, but according to a pattern. Maybe you'll choose to take out a word every 5 words, every 7 words, every 8 words. So
Maybe in a song.
maybe in a song, yes. Or maybe you're choosing to take out the verbs, or maybe you're choosing to take out the conjunctions, or maybe the prepositions. It depends in what you're trying to evaluate. Okay. Now, Gabby, can you help us, please?
Of course. Information transfer. 1. Multiple picture cue selection. 2. A number of people and or actions are presented in one picture, such as a group of people at a party. Question. Is the tall man near the door talking to a short woman? True or false?
Uh-huh.
The woman wearing a red skirt is watching TV. Identification. Point to the person who is standing behind a lamp.
Thank you, Gabby. Now, this one is, as Georgina was saying, is a very popular one used by us. And we didn't know that we were using it. But it's very common in textbooks, English language textbooks. And we like it because we have graphic aids. We have images to help us to promote or to convey the meaning. So it's very familiar with us. Okay, this is the same. We have another example of extensive listening. Um, Georgina, can you help us, please?
Yes, extensive listening. Dictation. In a dictation, test taker hear a passage, typically of 50 to 60 words, recited 3 times, first at normal speed, then with long pauses between phrases, natural words groups, and finally at normal speed once more, during which test takers write down what they have heard.
Thank you, Georgina. And here you can be assessing listening and also writing. I'm going to skip this. Okay. How much time do I have left? Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Georgina. Ignacio, can you help us, please?
Yes, teacher. Introduction. Um, to become efficient readers, two fundamental strategies that are needed. They are: 1. Bottom-up strategies, processing separate letters, words, and phrase, and yeah, you finalize. 2. Top-down strategies, conceptually driven strategies for comprehension. Besides, appropriate content and formal schemata, background information, and cultural experience to carry out interpretation effectively.
Thank you, Ignacio. Yes, you have to be very familiar with those two types of strategies, bottom up and top down. You use them, and you have used them in your formal and informal learning process. Only you have to know how to identify them. Bottom up, you're building information from new input. You're processing it, new information. And in top-down strategies, you're using what you know, your previous schemata, and your background information, your cultural experience, to make sense of what you're reading or listening or what you're seeing, okay? So those are the main difference between bottom-up strategies and top-down strategies. Okay, Jose Luis, can you help us, please?
Yes, the assessment of reading ability does not end with the measurement of comprehension. Strategic pathways to to full understanding are often important factors to include in assessing learners, especially in the case of most classroom assessments that are formative in
Oh, sorry.
all assessment of reading must be carried out by inference.
Thank you. So this is very important that we as teacher understand that reading does not end only with the measurement of comprehension. So we have to know which pathway or which, yes, how is the learner achieving that reading comprehension? Especially when we are giving them tools so they can improve their reading comprehension. Because at the end, what is important is that that our learners can make inferences. They can read a passage, they can read a text, they can read anything and grasp or understand the meaning of that text. And they can only do that with using, well, the most viable reading comprehension strategies, which we can help them with those. We can provide them with some guidance, with some tools, so they can be more proficient readers, and also that they can grasp the meaning of the text. They can infer the meaning or what the author is trying to imply. Thank you, Jose Luis. Marisa, can you help us, please?
Yes. genres of reading: academic reading, general interest articles in magazines and newspapers, technical reports, for example, lab reports, professional journals articles, reference materials like dictionaries, textbooks, theses, thesis,
Thesis, yes.
essay, paper, test directions, editorials and opinion writing.
Thank you. Those are
Exposé.
academic reading. Thank you, Marisa. Rene, can you continue, please?
Job-related reading, messages, phone messages, letters, mails, memos, inter-office reports, jobs evaluations, projects reports, schedules, labels, signs, announcements, forms, applications, questionnaires, financial documents, bill, invoices.
Okay, telephone, office, directories. Thank you. Medium, can you continue?
Personal reading, newspapers and magazines, letters, emails, greeting cards, invitations, messages, notes, lists, schedules, train, bus, plane, recipes, menus, maps, calendars, advertisements, commercials, want ads, novels, short stories, jokes, drama, poetry, financial documents such as checks, tax forms, loan applications, forms, questionnaires, medical reports, immigration documents, comic strips, and cartoons.
Thank you, Miriam. Thank you. So we're going to cut it short here. And I'm going to close this session and we immediately begin with the next one. Okay, guys?
Okay.
We're going to enter with the same link. I'm going to finish this session.